Hello everyone, welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. It's great to have you here with me today. We're going to be starting off with the tropics as usual here, off the southeast coast through the eastern and central Gulf. Over the next couple weeks, we're going to be looking at the potential for at least two tropical systems. We could have one storm form later this week and next weekend, and another one closer to the end of the month as we get these spin-ups along the southern end of these frontal boundaries. We'll also be taking a look at some strong tropical wave action out here into the MDR. Throughout the rest of the Cape Verde season, we could be having an awakening start out here come the end of the month with strong tropical wave action into the beginning of August. And Japan is getting hit with multiple tropical systems. We could see a surge of tropical moisture continuing with flooding concerns throughout Japan and the rest of the Western Pacific. And all eyes are going to be on the Gulf during the next couple days to a week as we get this convection firing on the tail end of a frontal boundary that could head west across Florida and the Gulf. And we'll also be watching severe weather and flood threat running high here across eastern North America. We'll get into the details for you and see if this weather pattern is going to break come the end of the month, beginning of August. Let's get into it. And watching our convection fire off the southeast coast and Florida coastline here, watching our area across the central and eastern Gulf. This is going to be that area. You can see the convection firing around the center here as it heads towards Florida. As we head across the rest of the Caribbean here, watch out. We have a tropical feed of moisture moving into eastern and central Puerto Rico. That's going to pivot towards the northwest. Also, a little bit of shower and cloudy action across the Virgin Islands. This is going to slowly head to the north throughout the next couple of days. I wanted to briefly show you, before we start out on the GFS and the Euro, on our mesoscale model, you can see where the system is going to be potentially developing initially. Off the southeast coast, here's the 14th. This is our potential area, our tropical development. Through Monday here that starts to get its act together. It's going to focus a lot of heavy rain across South Florida here. You can see the low pressure trying to initialize. So we could be looking at a tropical low sometime this week, especially as it crosses Florida. You can see on Tuesday, it starts to maintain that process just around Daytona Beach, where it will start to emerge into the Gulf as we head towards the middle of the week. All right, so we're starting off here with the GFS. We're going to look and progress throughout time here and see about our potential Florida and eastern and central Gulf system here. Watch out, because it's going to be providing especially South Florida here with a lot of rainfall as we go through the next day or two. Watch as it crosses into the Gulf. You see the stalled frontal boundary. This is going to be the focal point for some action here into the eastern Gulf. As we head throughout the 15th into the 16th, you can see through Tuesday into Wednesday, we do get that flare up across the eastern Gulf. It's likely that we're going to start to see a tropical system come together here. And yeah, so far it looks like it's going to be a weaker system, but strong, heavy tropical rains will be the name of the game. As you can see, this nose of this high pressure system to the east is going to continue to push this system slowly, and I mean agonizingly slowly, to the west here. You see by the 18th, it's off the coast of the southeastern Louisiana here, New Orleans, and that's going to flare up showers and thunderstorms through the 19th. You can still see some shower and thunderstorm action back through Florida here as well. That heads towards Texas right around the 20th here. So we could be getting some strong tropical moisture back in through parts of Texas as well. Now look at around the 21st. This is where we start to turn our attention to this piece of energy up here across the Appalachians, and then this tail end of the frontal boundary. This is where we could see energy come together here, two fronts, tail end of a front here with explosion of showers and thunderstorms and persistent here off the Florida coast. We could see a lot of deep tropical moisture come together here with the potential for another tropical system from the southeast coast to the eastern and central Gulf here. So right around the last week of July here, we could be looking at another potential tropical system trying to spin up here across portions of the southeast coast and Gulf. And there's that frontal boundary lifting off to the northeast here, and stormy weather continues off the southeast U.S. coastline here. Now, for the rest of the tropics, it is actually going to be pretty active as well. So initially, it starts off quiet around the Caribbean here. We just have a few showers pushing up through Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Jamaica. The Cayman Islands look mostly dry. Also some showers across Central America here. But our eyes are drawn out here to the intertropical convergence zone. Yes, the Cape Verde season is going to awaken here. And look at that. That is a strong tropical wave that we're going to watch. It is pretty far to the south, so development that far south is likely not going to happen. But it is interesting to see a very robust wave also coming off the coast of Africa here. And we can follow those waves across the African continent, right through Nigeria here, South Sudan, all these areas, Central African Republic, all these areas. This is where we're seeing, look at this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tropical waves just lining up here. And this is going to be the name of the game as we head later on into July, into early August. You can see right around the 17th into the 18th, we have that strong tropical wave starting to move through Trinidad, Tobago here up to Grenada. That moves to the westward here towards the southern Caribbean Sea here, where we'll start to see Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Belize get in on some heavier downpours. Now, for Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, Dominican Republic, and Haiti, Puerto Rico, so far it looks like only scattered showers and thunder showers. So depending on where you are, you could see some of these kick up through the 19th into the 20th. But look at the intertropical convergence zone bounce a little bit further to the north here. We really start to see it solidify through the end of the month here. Here's the 22nd. Very strong tropical wave coming off the coastline here, south of the Cape Verde Islands. And look at that. As we continue through the 27th into the 28th, I want to draw your attention here to the Northwest Caribbean. We start to see something come together up here right around the Cayman Islands. So we'll watch for a flare-up, and then another more interesting storm could be trying to form here right around Nicaragua and Honduras the 29th. So the Western Caribbean starts to become a little more conducive for development here as we go through the end of the month. And there's Cape Verde season really starting to light up out here. Let's take a look at the Euro. So thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European tropical model analysis here. These are the areas we're going to be watching. There's that stalled frontal boundary across Florida off the southeast coast as well. That is going to be the big area. Look at this big tropical wave just east of the Lesser Antilles. Also, a little bit of a tropical wave down here into the extreme southern Caribbean. So we're going to watch both these areas. The one around Florida is the one that stands the chance of seeing the greatest risk of development, as I showed you in the GFS model. But here it is, east of Bermuda. That high pressure is going to be building towards the west, and that's going to help steer our potential tropical system here into the Eastern Gulf as we head throughout July 15th and 16th. You see during the day, that's where we get the biggest flare-up of showers and thunderstorms. But look at this. Wednesday, July 16th, we see two tropical waves. We see this one here into the Eastern Gulf. We also see this one into the Northeast and Eastern Caribbean islands. That's going to continue to go out in time here as we watch that high pressure build further to the west. There is that tropical disturbance heading into the North Central Gulf. By this time, it's possible it could be a tropical storm. So we'll continue to watch it here for potential development. You know, the National Hurricane Center outlining this whole central and eastern Gulf area as a potential area of development. And that continues through Friday the 18th. We're going to watch for some serious downpours. Whatever happens with this system, we could be looking at a lot of rainfall, which we'll go over those rainfall amounts in a couple minutes here. But as we continue throughout Central America, you see those heavy downpours around Honduras with a tropical wave. We also have another tropical wave southeast of Trinidad, Tobago here that we'll be keeping a very close watch on as we go through Saturday, July 19th here. And here we go, continuing into the following week, the 20th into the 21st. We'll just continue to watch the Gulf, but watch this. This was showing up on the GFS as well. Here's another frontal boundary. We'll be watching off the southeast coast. Also this big tropical wave and a little bit here into the northwestern Caribbean. This next tropical wave for the southern Lesser Antilles looks like pretty big here as we approach the Trinidad Tobago area and all the way up to Grenada, St. Vincent area, Barbados, come the 23rd into the 24th. Look at that. So here it is off the southeast coast. We could be looking at another potential tropical system trying to form here. And then look at this. This pushes further westward throughout the 24th into the 25th. So we could be looking at a broken record tropical flare-up here as we watch the North Central Gulf once again. That means Louisiana in particular getting more heavy rain And we're just going to continue to watch this through the end of the month because this one could push further west towards Texas. Texas may be in play for this one. And look at this. Another frontal boundary here could stall out and create another tropical flare-up, also another tropical wave approaching the Lesser Antilles here. We're just going to continue to line up this possibility as we go in time. There is that another potential tropical system trying to spin up here off the southeast coast. Now let's look across the intertropical convergence zone here on the European run. I just want to show you how strong this ITCZ is becoming as we head through mid to late July here. Look at some of these tropical waves. These are looking pretty ominous here. These two in particular, right around July 19th, you can see high pressure right out here into the central Atlantic between Bermuda and the Azores. That's going to keep these systems on a general west and eventually west-northwest. But look at some of these waves coming off the coast of Africa, southeast of the Cape Verde season. Right around the 22nd into the 23rd, you can see there is a very strong tropical wave here. Watch the tail end of these fronts here into the western Atlantic too. These can flare up tropical systems. And look at this. This one is going to be one to watch in particular as it progresses here across the MDR towards the Lesser Antilles as we head through the 27th into the 28th, and another very large tropical wave getting ready to exit off the coast of Africa come the end of the month. Sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic off the U.S. East Coast. We are looking extremely above average here. Watch out, some areas 3 to 5 degrees above average around Bermuda. Look at the Gulf too, warming back up, the northwestern Caribbean. And even out here into the Cape Verde season, we are warming these waters as the Saharan dust starts to thin. And here into the western Caribbean, liquid equivalent precipitations here with your tropical downpour outlook as we go throughout this week. Yeah, it's mainly eastern Honduras, Belize, Nicaragua down to Costa Rica here. That's where you're going to see the lion's share of the rain. Some areas upwards of 100 to 150 millimeters. Jamaica, it's hard pressed to get you to 10 to 20 millimeters. Some locations here in the eastern Jamaica, especially towards Portland Parish, upwards of 48 to 50 millimeters. Same for Dominican Republic here. But as we continue, just spin this all the way through the following week there. Yeah, very, very different. Pretty much the same, not very different. So we're not adding too much rain here. Some areas will approach, another 30 to 40 millimeters here in Jamaica, especially the western and eastern areas, and then Dominican Republic and Haiti. Puerto Rico, you're not looking at much, maybe a quarter to a half an inch on average, locally higher amounts. Most of the rain's going to be up here across South Florida, it looks like, the Bahamas as well, and we'll get a little bit up towards Cancun here. The western Yucatan, down by the Bay of Campeche, a lot of tropical moisture up towards 100 to 200 millimeters. And here we go, looking at the western Caribbean for the GFS. Yeah, this week looks pretty dry across the Cayman Islands. Only a few showers here into Jamaica, maybe upwards of 40 millimeters here in some areas. Throughout Dominican Republic, upwards of 40 to 60 millimeters on average. And eastern Honduras here holding right around 50, 60. Southern part of Belize could get more than 100 millimeters here. So as we head through, the 2-week period, things are going to be surging here. Eastern parts of Honduras, upwards of 200 millimeters. Watch southern Belize, though. Some areas just off the coast could get close to 400 millimeters. Jamaica, western Jamaica here on our GFS run showing upwards of 125 millimeters. So watch out into Dominican Republic as well, depending on where you are. Some areas could see 60 to 120 millimeters. And the same for Puerto Rico. Some areas on the eastern part of the island could see 3 to 4 inches with tropical wave action. And looking at our eastern Caribbean here, yeah, we got some major tropical wave action that's going to continue throughout this week. The central and southern Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago, all the way up the island chain here. Watch out. Heavy downpours are on their way into the following week. Look at this. Some parts of Trinidad Tobago could get upwards of close to 90 to 100 millimeters, and some of these eastern-facing islands and higher elevations along these island chains getting upwards of 110 millimeters. There's a rain hole up here towards the Virgin Islands, nothing more than, say, 20 to 30 millimeters on average. And the GFS here across the eastern Caribbean, we're going to see that surge of tropical wave action over the next couple weeks, especially that third week to the end of July. Look at this. Some areas around Trinidad, Tobago, would not be surprised. 150, 175 millimeters. GFS going crazy, even up the Lesser Antilles island chain. Some of these islands could get as high as 120, 130 millimeters. Up towards the Virgin Islands, though, yeah, you're anywhere from 16 to about 40 millimeters on average. Further amounts westward here towards Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic. So watching our tropical moisture, our potential tropical system, as we head later this week into the following weekend. And we're actually looking at two potential tropical systems, one right after another, as we head into the third week of July as well. But here it is, 2-week rainfall. It looks like we're coming down a little bit here into the Carolinas and eastern Georgia, where we'll see on average a 2 to 2.5, close to 3 inches. Look at South Florida, though. This is where some areas could be picking up 4 to 6 inches. And then look at Louisiana here. I think both of these potential systems head in this general direction, and you'll be on the northeast side of the system, where the rainfall will be piling up. Some areas could see 4 to 7 inches. All right, so for our GFS here, liquid equivalent precipitation amounts, let's make sure we have the latest run. There it is. We're going to continue throughout this week into the following week. First tropical potential here this week into next weekend, and then another one surging towards the end of the month here. We could be looking at, just like on the European model here, close to 5, 6, some areas close to 8 inches here. South Florida as well. Look at this area off the Carolina coastline, though. This is a little bit worrying. If this were heading just a little bit closer to the coast, it could get some of these areas into 5 to 8 inches of rain. So for our CanSIPS model here, throughout the rest of July, we're looking well above average precipitation here from the southeast coast through the north central and eastern Gulf here, also the southern Caribbean. And watch out, Cape Verde season becoming alive, it looks like later in July. And then as we head into August, this continues to really ramp up. I think August, that's when we're really going to start to see our activity explode. Also into the north central, eastern Gulf, and off the southeast coast. Watch out. Look at this, though, for eastern New England. Below average precipitation amounts, that could signify a lowering chance of a potential tropical system. Now watch this as we head into September peak month. This is where we start to orient the eastern Gulf all the way up into the Appalachians into the northeast. The western Gulf towards Texas becomes open for business. And look at the entire intertropical convergence zone. The Cape Verde season explodes all the way to the central Atlantic. This signifies some of these will be recurving out towards east of the Bermuda area and the Azores here. But look at the Caribbean. That's when we're going to see some explosive development as we head on into September. Now, one more month into October, you see that becomes a little bit more tepid here into the central and eastern Gulf. Still some above average up the east coast here. Western Gulf, definitely open for business. Caribbean continuing to explode here. And the intertropical convergence zone out by the Cape Verde Islands, that's where we'll continue to see more activity. Looking out here into the western Pacific, we have Tropical Depression 7 here. It's not likely to become much of anything. It is providing southern Japan here, and the Korean Peninsula here, South Korea with heavy rain southeast of Seoul here. So watch out. That's going to pull off to the east. We are watching Tropical Storm Nari here. That is thankfully going to pass just to the east of Tokyo here in Chiba. That will stay mostly offshore of Sendai here, and that is going to keep the heaviest rain and wind offshore. It will provide eastern parts of Japan, though, with some wind and rain action. And then the southern flow continues out of the south here, obviously, with our next low pressure, what's left of this tropical depression. So that will push more heavy rain, unfortunately, into areas around Tokyo and Kyoto here and Osaka, where we saw some very heavy rains around Tokyo just the other day. So watch out. Flood threat is running high here. Unfortunately, look at the tropical connection here east of the Philippines. It goes right up through Tokyo here, all the way to the central Pacific here, central western Pacific. That is going to be the biggest threat here, flooding rains. And look at that, through the 15th, look at both Seoul, South Korea, and Tokyo remaining socked in with tropical moisture here, as this blocking high doesn't allow any of these tropical systems to really exit, or at least have a clean exit here. This continues through the 16th, so this is a little troubling. We do start to get another tropical storm trying to form here east of the Philippines. Also, the Philippines socked in, with the exception for the northern Philippines, where you'll start to dry out, thankfully. But look at this. We're going to be in the thick of it here, especially central and southern Japan. South Korea as well. Watch out. Heavy rain continuing. We are socked in with some serious tropical moisture. That starts to pivot towards the west into southwestern Japan here in the southern Japanese islands down towards Okinawa here. So watch out. This low pressure really gets cranking northeast of the Philippine Islands through the 18th here towards Taiwan. That's when we could see another typhoon try to develop here between the Philippines and Taiwan. Look at South Korea, though. Seoul drying out down to Shanghai, China. And we do start to see a little bit drying across the Japanese islands here, thankfully, towards the 20th. But there it is. We could be looking at another typhoon developing here. That looks to go between the northern Philippine Islands and Taiwan, but watch out. The margin of error pretty much includes this whole area. So anybody is game in this area. And it looks like this starts to head towards Hong Kong area and South China towards the 23rd into the 24th. We do see another area, potential tropical system, maybe a typhoon heading up towards South Korea, between South Korea and Shanghai. It's also going to provide the Japanese islands, especially southwestern Japan and the southern Japanese islands, with tremendous rainfall here. Watch out. That continues up towards the South Korean peninsula. And look at this. Towards the end of the month, right around the 25th, look at the intertropical convergence zone. We're lining up 3 potential systems here. And if we look at rainfall amounts here in the Western Pacific, it's Japan here and South Korea that are going to be racking up the totals, as well as the Philippines and Taiwan, South China as well. Look at all the way through the end of the month. Some of these areas along the 700, I just saw 724 millimeter here on some of the southern Japanese islands. Look at this. This is intense. Some of these areas are going to see some epic rainfall totals, even around Tokyo. Wouldn't be surprised if these are a little bit higher given the southern fetch. Look at the east coast of Taiwan. Some of these areas approaching 700 millimeters. Same for Philippines. This is really downright dangerous here. Look at some of these totals over 1,000 millimeters. Look at that. 1,180 millimeters. That is intense rainfall action. All right, so looking at the rest of our Sunday evening here, there's a lot of trouble areas. In fact, we're going to continue to watch for flooding here in central and eastern Texas, northeast Texas. That's terrible. Don't need any more rain. Watching our area in the eastern Gulf. This is the actual area right here along the tail end of a front we'll continue to watch. Up here into parts of Indiana, Illinois, strong thunderstorms all the way into Pennsylvania and upstate New York. I-81 corridor through 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Watch out. Some of these could contain damaging wind and large hail as they progress throughout the evening through 11 p.m. here up towards Binghamton, Utica, just northwest of Albany, south of Harrisburg here, eastern Pennsylvania as well. And we're following that frontal boundary all the way down in through the Ohio Valley and to eastern Texas. Strong thunderstorms here with tropical downpours off the coast of Florida here. So there's that low pressure trying to initialize as we head through 8 a.m. on Monday. We're also going to see another round of showers and thunderstorms. Let me just back this up for eastern Ohio. Look at that. Most of the thunderstorms weekend through 6 a.m. through Monday morning. Cleveland, you may eke out a few showers and thunder showers on Monday morning here. But look at down and through Kentucky, Tennessee. This is where the storms will refire on the day in the afternoon, Monday up into parts of Pennsylvania and upstate New York. Watch out. Some of these could pack a punch. Yeah. Look at the I-81 corridor down and through State College, Binghamton, Scranton, Albany, Hudson Valley, Catskills, Poconos. We could be looking at a very busy day once again for damaging wind, large hail, isolated tornado potential as well through 11 p.m. That moves into just around the New York City area, Philadelphia. Watch out. Down and through parts of the Outer Banks here, we get a little bit of a kick up of moisture, but it looks like during the next day or two, most of this moisture stays inland across parts of North and South Carolina and Virginia around the nation's capital through 9 p.m. on the 14th on Monday here. So there you have it. All eyes are going to be watching our low pressure system, our potential tropical system here on the 15th. It's getting ready to move across Florida at this time. And picking up where our feature radar left off here across eastern North America and the rest of the country here. Look at this through the 15th into the 16th as we get through Tuesday into Wednesday. Ultimately, what we're going to be looking at is our southeast system into the Gulf, the central and eastern Gulf. We have the Ring of Fire up here to the north. We'll watch out for these mesoscale convective complexes through Wednesday into Thursday, so watch out. We could be looking at some convection firing across Michigan. I'll show you it on the Euro momentarily as well, through parts of Ohio into Pennsylvania and New York. Watch out, northern Ohio here could get clipped the 16th into the 17th. And watch out, that moves up towards the St. Lawrence Valley and then up into the Canadian Maritimes. More storminess heading east around Friday the 18th here, so watch out. More storms will likely fire along this frontal boundary, and all eyes are going to be on the north central Gulf Coast at this time. Also, another area trying to form just east of the Outer Banks. That's with the tail end of a frontal boundary, so look at that. There it is. We head into next weekend. It starts out clear. That's good. North central Gulf watching, off the North Carolina coast watching, and then as we head throughout next Saturday into Sunday, we start to see evidence that this system may begin to form off the North Carolina coast. And we're watching this first system on this latest run of the GFS try to make a run for Texas. So not just Louisiana, but Texas could be in play with this. And look at this. Through the 20th, this frontal boundary across the mid-Atlantic, back in through the Ohio and northern Mississippi River valleys up through eastern New England, providing shower and thunderstorm action. And as we head throughout the 21st into the 22nd, look at this. Another front tries to energize this low off the Carolinas, and we could be looking at another area with surging tropical moisture and maybe a tropical storm forming out of this as well. Look at this, heads into the eastern Gulf, this energy. So these tail ends of the front, that's been the name of the game so far this hurricane season, spinning up these potential tropical systems off the southeast coast and heading towards the Gulf. Watch out here. Ring of fire starts to set up across the Midwest into parts of the eastern Great Lakes right around the 25th of July. So for a severe weather outlook here into parts of the east, in particular central Pennsylvania and north central New York State here, getting into the slight risk, especially Sunday, late Sunday afternoon, evening hours into the overnight. Watch out, damaging wind, large hail, even marginal risk outside this into the darker green, as well as Florida and parts of the Mississippi River Valley down through Austin, Texas. Watch out into the northern plains and Midwest here as well. As we get into your Monday here, that turns more to a generalized threat. It's going to be more of a flood threat here into parts of the mid-Atlantic and northeast. Northern plains, watch out, a marginal risk of severe thunderstorms. And then heading on into Tuesday, it's the northern plains that will see that marginal risk from South Dakota, Nebraska, up to Minnesota and northwestern Wisconsin. The rest of the country, we're seeing a lot of generalized thunderstorms, but watch out for flash flooding potential. And here we go, picking up where our future radar left off on our European run. You can see throughout the rest of the week, here it is, Monday into Tuesday, we're going to see those showers and thunderstorms blossom across the mid-Atlantic here during the day, especially towards the East Coast. And a Tuesday, you can see the mid-Atlantic. Some areas, especially just inland here, could be looking at quite a bit more rain in those flood-ravaged areas. So we're going to continue into Wednesday here. Look at this. This is the beginnings of that tropical disturbance that we're going to be watching over the next several days to a week or so. Look what starts to happen the 17th, right into the eastern Gulf. This is our trouble area, as I outlined in the tropics. And look at this. Mesoscale convective systems will start to form around this ring of fire up towards the Midwest. Look at Michigan on Thursday, right around noon hour into the later afternoon towards Ohio, and eventually into Pennsylvania, New York State as well. That exits off the coast for your Friday with another round propagating through parts of the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. We'll still continue to watch our potential tropical system here into the North Central Gulf. The European kind of showing this washing out across southeastern Louisiana. Look at this, though. By Monday, the 21st, this spins up here off the East Coast into a coastal storm. Really strange for the middle part of July. But here we go. Watch this. Tuesday, the 22nd. Another tail end of a frontal boundary here. Mesoscale convective system watching these two areas. You got to watch out. We may start to have another flare-up of a tropical wave or tropical disturbance developing, and that pinwheels towards the Gulf here. You can see right along the panhandle of Florida, these areas we're going to be watching through the 24th. As we go into the 25th, there is another spin-up trying to form here along the north central Gulf Coast. So once again, we could be looking at more heavy rain for those areas that just saw it from the previous tropical system. This one bends more towards Texas, so we'll have to get in and continue to watch it here. But unfortunately, look at this. This continued tropical moisture across the mid-Atlantic down through parts of the Gulf Coast and Florida here is just going to continue. And then by the 27th, the pattern seems to be flipping. Look at this. an East Coast system here. The Carolinas, Virginia, once again getting hit with more showers and thunderstorms the 27th here. This does sink a little bit further to the south, though, come the 28th, as high pressure builds in to the northeast here. And look at equivalent precipitation amounts here. As we continue through this entire week into next weekend, you can see where Florida, 2 to 3 inches, Texas, especially central Texas to northeast Texas, 2 to 3 inches. In the mid-Atlantic here, you could see anywhere from 1.5 inches to 3 inches. These purple zones right around 1 inch or 2. Look what happens, though, as we get towards the following week. That third week of July, we're going to really start to push this tropical moisture along the north central Gulf Coast all the way up the East Coast here. We'll continue to watch it here. So it's starting to look like that first system drops a little bit less rain along the Gulf Coast than our system behind it right around the 24th, 25th, and 26th. So we'll watch it here. Rainfall totals over a 2-week period along the Gulf Coast could eclipse 6-8 inches in some locations. Little bit lesser up the East Coast here, 2 to 3 inches, with more here into northern New England, 4 to 6 inches. And here we go, looking at the GFS nationally here. You can see as we head throughout this week, the mid-Atlantic, parts of the Northeast, 1, 2, maybe as high as 3 inches here, especially eastern Virginia, upwards of 4 inches. Southeastern Louisiana through South Florida here, the Panhandle, you're going to rack up these rainfall totals as well. And look at as we head through the end of the month, GFS is going crazy throughout eastern North America. Look at the storm systems up across the Midwest, the Northeast, and the Southeast coast through the Central Gulf. This is where we're going to be looking at rainfall closer to 4 to 6 inches locally higher in these yellow and orangish shaded areas. And before we continue with more weather coverage, don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. It really does help. Question or comment down below. I love to read your questions and comments and respond to them. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates, especially ahead of this hurricane season. And speaking of hurricane season, if you still haven't caught my 2025 prediction for number of storms and hurricanes and what I think is going to happen this hurricane season, it's a link at the end of this video in the description down below, so be sure to check that out. Let's continue. And the upper air weather pattern here showing up on our European model. You can see as we head throughout the week, that ridge continues across the lakes and the northeast. We are starting to see a trough up here into north central Canada, though. There is that weakness, that potential tropical system moving towards Florida and the eastern Gulf as we go throughout time here. You can see that high pressure building to the west. That is going to help steer any potential tropical system westward here and west-northwest into the Gulf. So we'll watch for this East Coast ridge continuing to try to build. We do get a little bit of a storminess pattern the 21st here next week, and then it quickly builds back into a ridge here in a parts of the northeast before another trough moves through. This may be the signal. Look at this. There's an East Coast small trough here. This may be the signal after the 28th. We may see some cooling and some drier conditions, maybe some lower humidity as well. NAO index is going seriously negative here throughout the rest of the month. It does start to go more neutral come later in the month as I expect things to quiet down a bit later in the month and the weather pattern to slowly equalize across eastern North America. And the MJO index here, yeah, we are heading towards phase 5 and 6 and eventually 7. So most of the rest of July into the beginning of August, we'll be going into those continuing quiet phases here. So I do expect the weather pattern, as I said in the NAO index, to slowly equalize across eastern North America. We may be looking at better times come extreme late July, especially into early August. Okay, so taking a look at our Canadian weather outlook here. Yeah, things are pretty active up here by Hudson Bay. Also, we're looking at some big activity, heavy rain from southern British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Watch out. Some of these could pack a punch. Severe weather, flooding threat running pretty elevated here into Ontario as we head throughout the week, as we head through the 15th into the 16th. That storm pushes east. We're going to watch for the possibility some mesoscale convective complexes running around this high-pressure system across southern Ontario and Quebec. Watch out. We could have some stronger showers and thunderstorms with some flooding potential. Now, it gets quiet out west here until about the 17th into the 18th. We do see some convection firing across the central prairies here. Also, another Pacific system moving into northern British Columbia here and southeastern Quebec, New Brunswick here. Prince Edward Island and Newfoundland here. We're seeing some showers and thunderstorms with this area of low pressure. All in all, though, things stay pretty progressive here. We see these Pacific systems roar in here, bringing some beneficial rain, especially to northern Alberta, where we had the wildfires burning as of late. But here through central Ontario, we have another storm moving in. Southeastern Canada getting a break here around the 19th into the 20th until our next frontal boundary pushes through with a line of convection. We could be looking at some severe thunderstorms. Strong damaging wind would be the large threat here. Another low wrapping up towards Saskatchewan and Alberta here. Watch out. We could see some really nice rainfall here with these wildfire areas. So that's some great news. Here across the 21st into the 22nd, we're watching for some torrential rain up here. That's some great news into these areas that saw the wildfires. So look at that, 22nd to the 23rd. The storm track goes much further to the north here across Canada. That allows southern Canada towards the U.S. border to become a bit more quieter until around the 23rd. Look what starts happening. This is where we're going to start to see some of this big storminess affect southern Ontario, the large population centers here towards London and Toronto, and eventually the last frame here towards New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, the Canadian Maritimes. And watch out, we have our next system pushing up here into the Yukon Northwest Territories. And looking at our liquid equivalent precipitation here into Canada as we head throughout the week, Southeast Canada and Southwestern Canada, the two trouble spots as we head over the next couple weeks. Actually, once we get into that third week, it looks evenly distributed over many areas. You can see British Columbia, the Rocky Mountains here, getting up close to 60 to 100 millimeters. That is great news for the wildfire situation. Also, here in Southeast Canada, from Manitoba, Saskatchewan, into Ontario and Quebec, many areas eclipsing 60 to 90 millimeters with locally higher amounts here into Southeast Canada towards New Brunswick and the Canadian Maritimes over 100 millimeters. All right, so the rest of your week here, we are looking at extreme heat out west in the plains and up the East Coast here, where we'll see mid to high 90s, some areas out west into the 100 degree plus range. Look at 80s across the lakes and the Northeast. We're going to continue to increase that heat and humidity building into the 90s, many of these areas eclipsing the upper 80s to around 90 degrees as we head on into your Tuesday. It just remains very hot and humid across the East 90s. Once again, across the lakes, the Northeast, some areas getting up to 95 here near Albany, New York City, Boston. These areas further inland, lower 90s into Thursday. Look at this. We do start to see evidence of some 70s. That looks nice across the northern plains and upper Midwest. Will that stretch eastward here? Well, here it is. For your Friday, July 18th, we start to get into some lower 80s and lower humidity here as we push a cold front through parts of the Northeast into next weekend, July 19th. Here it is. We do start to see some mid to high 80s here. Extended forecast for my hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. If we take a look at the rest of Sunday, yeah, you got some showers and thunderstorms damaging with large hail into the overnight, Sunday night into Monday. That's where we still have a chance of showers and thunderstorms, especially in the afternoon. Highs up towards the mid-80s into Tuesday. We're pushing 90 again. Chance of afternoon showers and thunderstorms into Wednesday as well. 90s into Thursday. We get those chance of showers and thunderstorms again. Watch out for damaging wind, large hail. And into Friday, more showers and thunderstorms likely pulling back a little bit into the mid to high 80s. Plenty more weather to come. Here is a look at my affiliate. Check out these awesome, amazing maps. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone, share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.